Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs, and today I have week 8 of the 12-week of Christmas series. I cannot believe we're already on week 8, but let's jump into it. So I really wanted to create a more elegant, more traditional styled Christmas card. So for me, a traditional card for Christmas is usually white and gold. That's kind of what I get drawn to, just because I'm not a huge fan of red and green together personally, but I did kind of want to add something that was a bit more traditional. And this is a bit more of an elegant card, I think, than kind of my usual. I like to create one of these every once in a while just because I love how white and gold looks together. So that's kind of my thought there. So I did cut down my cardstock. You saw a piece of Tonic's gold pearl cardstock, and then my usual HammerMill, which is what I'm going to use for my base. And then I brought in the Holtz Yuletide Colorize dies. So there is 5 layers for the wreath and then 3 layers for the berries. And I'm going to cut all of the wreath out of the HammerMill, the white cardstock. And then the berries, I'm going to cut out of that same gold cardstock. So I did have a little bit of a struggle with die cutting. You guys know, if you've been following me for a little bit, my switch is a new product to me. So I am kind of learning the sandwich. I traded from a Gemini. So the sandwich is still something that I'm kind of trying to get wrap my mind around and get the best die cutting from. So it's kind of like a trial and error situation. And I did pick up the chrome precision plate, which is what you see me using here. And sorry, you can kind of see like a portion of my face and then my recording setup. It's kind of funny, but just because the chrome is so reflective, so you do kind of get my face a little bit there, but it works really well, and it doesn't have any cut marks in it. So obviously you wouldn't use this for like nesting dies or anything that has a really large area and a very small die. But for very delicate or very intricate dies, this works phenomenally. So I've really been enjoying using it since it's made cutting very delicate and intricate things a lot easier with one or multi-pass, just because the switch does that multi-pass so easily. And as you can see, I have the standard size plates and base as well. It comes with larger plates. I rarely use them because they take up so much room on my desk. But you, of course, could if you wanted to cut something bigger. If I bust out slimline stuff, usually I have to use them. And then lining this up was a little bit interesting. Normally you would be cutting it out of colored cardstock, or not necessarily if you wanted to color it yourself. But then you'd know, like lightest to darkest and whatnot. But because I'm cutting it all out of white, I kind of have to pay a little more attention to where I lined it up. So I kind of chose that little square cutout piece and then just lined up my first 3 layers with it. I found that was kind of the easiest way to make sure that I was lined up. And they do line up. Like, it's pretty easy to tell if something's not lined up properly. It does take a minute, kind of like a puzzle, but it's easy to see if it's not quite right. And then for the last 2 layers, there's 2 more layers that aren't connected because there's 5 layers altogether. I actually followed the packaging because Tim Holtz has color-coded wreath on the packaging. It was really easy for me to then see where the last set of the 2 dies needed to be. So it's hard for you guys to see it here because, of course, it's all white on white. So it's difficult to see all the detail and stunning beauty of this die. But I'll probably make a colored version of this. I have this really cool idea with all the leaves being in teal colors. So we'll see if that comes to fruition, but that is the idea and the goal. But you can kind of see that I've laid out all of my pieces where I want them to sit based on the packaging. And then I'm just adhering them down with my liquid glue. I did choose to make this one layer. You could add foam, you could have propped pieces up. I chose not to. I kind of just chose to put my layers down with some liquid glue. And then here Mist came to help me because she is my number 1 supervisor. She's trying to chase the pin of my barely art glue there. So I'm trying to discourage her. And then here she's going to try to chew on my paper. She's just the most help. And I left this in so you guys could kind of enjoy the hilarity of her being on my desk, which was pretty entertaining. She's still trying to chase the pin. Here, I'm going to take it away. That's where I took it away. So she's going to lose interest here in a minute and leave. But For this final layer, it goes right on top of that fourth layer. And you, again, can see that in the packaging. So it's pretty easy to kind of figure out where it needs to go based on that image. So thankfully, Tim Holtz gives those images on his products. So it makes it a lot easier to kind of see where all the layers need to be. But yeah, it kind of comes together easily once you can get your line up a little bit. Kind of thought out, and I just laid them all on top of each other and then just used my reverse tweezers to kind of line them up and actually adhere them down. And it does take me a second every once in a while to figure out where it was supposed to be once I've picked it up, but I usually get there fairly quickly, so it works out okay. And then that is the wreath completely done. And then we're going to jump into cutting out the bow and the berries. I went back and forth on whether or not I wanted to use the bow. As you saw, I opted not to use the bell that kind of goes with the bow. But I did choose to use the bow just because I thought that it would bring in a little more gold. I thought that the berries by themselves wouldn't be quite enough gold. And since this card is only white and gold, I really wanted the colors to kind of be reflected in as many things as I could have for that kind of composition idea. So this kind of, the bow was a last minute addition because I was only going to do the wreath and the berries. But I really think that the bow adds something, so I thought that would be kind of fun. And again, normally, I mean, this is 3 layers, as are the berries. So normally you would, cut them out of, like, say, red or purple or whatnot, and then do 3 different shades of that color. But I opted to do them all in gold just because I thought that would look really pretty. I have this kind of idea in my head to do like a teal wreath and then purple berries. I'll have to see if I can find all the colors of cardstock that I'd really like to use for that are kind of go well together. So you can kind of get that 5 layers of teal and then multiple layers of purple. But we'll see if that comes to fruition, as I said, because colored cardstock is not something I own very much of. So it's always a bit interesting trying to get the colors that I see in my head. They don't always come together the way I'd like them to. I could color it, that would be an option, but I thought it would be kind of neat to do it out of a colored cardstock. But again, we'll see. We only have a few weeks of Christmas cards left, so we'll see what comes. And of course, my November card kit showed up today, so now I am 5 card kits behind, and then the December one has already come out, and there's supposed to be, I believe, like a exclusive card kit tonight that's Christmas themed, and it looks pretty cute. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. And of course, Thursday or Friday, I guess, it would be Thursday night for me, I believe, the Black Friday box comes out, and I'm excited. I got it last year. I'll link the video of unboxing it last year in case any of you are ever interested what came in my kit last year. But I think that the value is totally worth the money that it costs. Even being Canadian, so even with the exchange and the higher shipping rate, I think it cost me $25 in shipping last year because the box is so heavy, but totally worth it. So I will link that video if you want to check it out and see what I got in the Black Friday box last year, and see if it's maybe something you want to consider or not. But yeah, I'm really excited about that box. So hopefully it will have a lot of really fun goodies in it, and I cannot wait to show it. And then of course I will record a video so you guys can check out what I got when the box comes. But yeah, so hopefully I'm going to get ahead on some of my kits. Chris and I, my husband, Chris and I, we booked a trip to Mexico in January. So I really need to get ahead on some content here so that I am not, straggling at the last minute trying to get stuff done. So fingers crossed I get all my ducks in a row, but we'll see how that goes. And then I used my liquid glue just to adhere all my layers together. You saw that there. And I'm using the Barely Art glue because it has such a fine, delicate tip, which makes adhering small things really easily. And I kind of went between my jewel picker or the embellishment wand and my reverse tweezers as to what made it easiest to adhere different things. And then I'm going to stamp out a greeting. So the greeting set is from Simon Says Stamp. It's the Christmas Blessings stamp set. I just actually got this. It's this really great stamp set that has a ton of really beautiful mixed fonts for Christmas sentiments. excuse me, and I love it. I thought it was really pretty and went well with this more elegant style of a card. So I kind of love that mixed font. And of course I had to emboss it in gold. And luckily this Gilded embossing powder by Brutus Monroe really kind of matches that gold pearl cardstock from Tonic. So I kind of get a very similar gold look to the two, so they don't, you know, clash, because sometimes your golds will be vastly different because there's so many shades of. So luckily they're quite similar, so it's not blaringly obviously different. So that's really nice too. And then now we only really have putting the cards together, which I brought out my Nuvo Deluxe glue for, only because it has a wider tip, so it's easier to get more glue quickly. And I did have a little bit of warping on my panel, so I did use my Misti to kind of weigh it down and make sure that it just adhered flat. And I pondered, I went back and forth as to whether or not I wanted to lift the panel up with some like Big Mama foam tape, but I opted not to in this design, just because I thought that it was quite pretty on its own and didn't necessarily need it. Although, you know, dimension is, you know, always a great thing because it adds some interest, but I kind of opted to just adhere it down flat and then make sure that my cardstock was aligned nicely. So, because I think that it would be fairly obvious if it was crooked here, and sometimes with foam tape I struggle to get it straight, even though you can add glue and that gives you a little more wiggle time, but I just thought that this was easier. And then because I cannot leave anything alone, I had to bring in some white pearls, which, if you've followed my channel for a little while, you know that I am obsessed with pearls. I love them. These are by far my favorite because they go with everything. And I think that they just give a little bit of a classic beauty to everything. So I do kind of get drawn towards pearls, especially these white ones. And I'm going to hold it up so you guys can check it out in all its glory. I'd love to know what you think of how this card came together. I know it's a more traditional color palette from what I normally do, but I think that it turned out really pretty, and I'd love to hear what you guys think. So I'd love it if you'd leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday, and we still have a few more weeks of Christmas cards. So thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.